All right. So I want to talk about system design because you're probably thinking, maybe I want to do this workshop on system design for estate planning. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to get. So I'm going to walk you through how we do this, what it's going to look like, and you can be the judge, but it feels like it's going to make sense to you. Fair enough? Awesome. So let me just jump in first and kind of say, when we're talking system design, what are we talking about, right? And this is an end-to-end solution. So specifically then, we're talking about estate planning, because that's a common thread for a lot of us. So that's what we're going to be doing in this workshop. So it's what comes out the end and what comes in the beginning. And it's going to be designing then everything that happens in here. And so some people go, mine's perfected, it's hyper efficient, we are killing it with revenue per employee, we're at 250, 300, 350, 400,000, half a million per person, we're good. Awesome. I don't know if this is for you, but if you're hanging in the sub 100,000, I really want you to pay attention today. If you're between 100 and 200, a lot of things you can do to start leveling up further. You're between 200 and 300. This is where we start fine tuning. If you're over 400,000, I don't know that that's going to be for you. By the way, if you go, what the heck's RPE? Just take your revenue divided by total employees. That equals RPE, rev per employee. Okay. And again, 0 to 100, listen up, let's get better. Let's fine tune. Over 300, you're crushing it, right? So this is for, I need a lot of help. A sub 100 is awful. 100, 200, right? And we used to be here. We used to be at 80, it was like 82K. We were making money. We were doing a great job. And when we went from that to 240, man, did we become profitable, make a lot of money. And right now we're running right at the 350 mark. We keep bouncing, I'd say like 320-ish. So just something to know. Okay, so when people kind of go, what are we talking about, or why do we mess with this stuff? This is what it's coming back to. And for us, it's in a law firm then, up this a little bit, right? At RPE of 82K, there were 4 total. We were like 340, we'll call it 350, 350K. RPE then went to about 240. It was 240 and change. Okay. I don't have the math in front of me. 4 total. Still me, Tracy, Hera, and an admin. Same structure here, except now we were doing 970K, and now we're doing plus. Actually tracking for, as of today, about 1.75. We're trying to hit the gear up and break 2 this year is really the goal. So we're well on the way. And so that's what this is about. Okay. So when we talk then system design, it's because we're talking about what's in here, right? We're talking system, we're talking process, phases, SOPs, templates, communication, tracking, tasking, automation, and then roll it out to your team. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. And a lot of folks go, okay, well, like, no offense, but like, how do you know this? Or like, what makes you any good at this? So for those of you that don't know, I'm not an attorney. My wife is the attorney. So that's me. That's my wife. She's an estates and trusts attorney. I am an engineer. And so she's done, you know, I don't know, um, like if 4,000 ish state plans, 1,500 probates, right? And some other stuff. I designed spy satellites at Northrop Grumman, changed design parameters for nuclear power plants. Royce and I modeled and built sims for submarines and aircraft carriers at Battis Lab. That's my skill set, is designing really, really crazy things. And so when you marry the two, what you get is a system for law firms. Okay, that's what excites me. That's what's really, really, really special here, is that is what we're talking about. That's what we're building. So that's my background, and that's Tracy's. I had to really learn this coming up at Northrop Grumman. That's where I started. Went to Rolls-Royce next and finished at Bettis Laboratory before Tracy talked me into joining her here a year after she started the law firm. So that's my background. And while I was designing early in my career on the satellites, we were doing radar based space. Like we would put radar in space. And basically, the quick theory is if you're moving really fast over a long period of time and you pulse it the right way, you can actually take an image with a radar. So instead of just getting the speed of something like the cop's radar gun of your car or a baseball pitch, you can flip the math the other way and use the Doppler effect opposite and do a thing called synthetic aperture radar, and you can make images. So that's what we were doing. We were a couple of miles up, imaging things on Earth. It was really cool. And I came up with this framework to design things I'd never done. Because I had a background in communications, I had a background in radio frequencies, things that we use, but I never designed a satellite. I've never done this kind of cutting edge things. And so I was working with some folks and came up with this framework for me that I call Black Box. And if it's okay, I would like to show you guys Black Box because this is something that really changed how I design. And so I used this throughout my engineering career. Started working with Tracy, realizing we didn't have things documented as well as we could. We hadn't thought it out. Yes, there was a way to get from A to Z in things like estate planning or intake or onboarding a new client or how to, do the back end, accounting or marketing systems. I went, hey, got something I think works. So we hit the whiteboard one day, kind of like this. And I started talking about black box to Tracy, and she was like, I think that would work. So we started black boxing things. And it works really, really, really good. So the idea of black box is that this could be anything. Okay. What's cool is I don't need to know what works, what it does inside. So let's just say we want to call this intake at your law firm. I can come in and design an intake system without knowing anything about it. You go, no way. So what black box says is all we worry about is the inputs and outputs. So in, out. We go, what's going to go in? That's the input side. The output side is what comes out. So we go, well, we're going to have a lead come in. Out it's going to come a client. And this is how Black Box works. So I want to jump through this, walk through how this works in intake, because that's something we all have. So it's without getting, it's still specific to law firm, but I think this is one of the most general things that we all have that's quasi the same, if that's good. So I'm going to show this now and really dive in some quick detail. And you're going to see how fast we can do this and realize, oh my God. So okay, so we said lead. So what comes in, out comes the client. So now we're done. Just kidding. But that is kind of how easy this is. And watch, we're going to design an intake system here really fast. So first I say, let's talk about what a lead is. Again, I'm going to talk today about things that we consider. This does not mean this is what you do. You have to chew through what it is that you want for a lead. For us, there is intent, way to contact, right? So they've like reached out to us. They've said, hey, I want to do estate planning, or I want to do, probate, and we have a way to contact them. So for us, if a financial advisor gives our name to somebody and they say, hey, I gave your name to the Smith family, they should reach out. We don't call that a lead because I don't have a way to get in touch with them. Okay. So for us, we want to be able to have a way, email, phone number, address, something, phone, call them, text them, email them, whatever, send them a package. I want a way to talk to them. And intent. I'm not just saying every person I've ever talked to is a lead. I understand some theories behind making that one, but for us, that's not. Okay. So both of these must be true for them to come in. On the back end, then we have a client. What the heck's a client? We can do it differently. For us, a client is engaged, so signed and paid. Okay. I have my black box. I don't have to know anything more about my black box than this. Right? And we can do this with things like a phone, your iPhone. It's a black box. Do you know how it works inside? Nope. You know that you push buttons and text messages go out. Cool. That's what it is. Input, touch the different buttons on the screen. What goes out? All the mysterious signals to a cell tower that let us do that. If we dove in a little further, what do we know about our iPhone? Well, we know there's a battery, there's a power source that uses electricity. There's some kind of antenna that sends the signals out. There's an interface with the screen and some software that's running that takes what's on screen and turns it over, right? And then a way to then take that and turn that into the signals that needs to go out. So there's like a human interface with clicking. There's something that takes the power and powers up the antenna. There's something that says I can take what you texted and the key, what you see on screen, actually turn that into the little bips of ones and zeros that go out to an antenna. All of a sudden we've got some boxes. We're going to do here next. There's typically 3 to 5 boxes in here. At least 2, not usually more than 7. Reason is if you have less than 2, it's probably part of a bigger system. You do this once in a while, you do this all the time, and you have something that's basic. You could have that basic with system. But usually if you're like, this is actually the entire thing right here, it's not complex enough, therefore it's part of something else. Flip side, if you're more than 7, 8 boxes in here, it's too complex. So 3 to 5 is the sweet spot. So let's just come up with 4. We'll see what happens. Cool. So I know now a lead comes into this box, and I know that what leaves this box is a client. And I know that a lead has an intent and a way for us to contact them, and a client means they've engaged and signed the engagement letter, paid us. So we start going, what could be this box that takes this and what might feed along? What are some of the big phases that we go through an intake? I don't know. Typically for us, some kind of pre-qualification screening, right? They call the ad, they call in, they email. We have this upfront interfacing. We'll call it screening intake. If they make it through that, we typically then have a consult call. But before we get to the consult call, we have time before it happens. So this would be pre-consult. Then we have the consult or sales meeting. We don't shy away from sales. And then here, then we typically have post-consult, but before they're a client, like sending the engagement letter and proposal. And sometimes they sign immediately. Sometimes it takes a little bit, right? So this would be like, let's call it like proposal based. Right. Black box, we're not going to worry about what goes into these right now. So how could I leave intake and go to pre-consult? Scheduled. Consult. They got scheduled. We go to pre-consult. How do we leave pre-consult, go to consult? Started the meeting. That's the output and that's the input. You see how this works now. And then consult to proposal. For us, it would be, yes, the meeting ended. We also understand what to do. So to do, and we want them as client, right? Because sometimes we screen out during. Sometimes we screen them out here. Sometimes we go, oh, sorry, actually, we don't want to help with that. So we have to have the, and we want to help. We understand what to do in this. Then it can go here to proposal. Now, this is just what I put together quick. You might say, I've got another box or two in here. You may combine some. But realize we're not getting into nitty gritty details. When people go, oh, what's the SOP for how do I send proposals? Nope, we're at this level still, okay? And that's the big piece that we have to remember. So let's jump in now a little bit. Now we go, what do we do? We're gonna zoom into here. Again, it's lead coming in, scheduled consult coming out. So what do we do? Well, we've got ways, right? So we could phone, we could have email, DM, Calendly, like a self-schedule, right? And then each one of these things is going to have a pathway. We have a conversation, could be digital, could be in person, it could be on the phone. We've got questions we're going to ask them. Some people will get screened out. That's okay. Out. Oh, you guys don't do DUIs. My bad. Reach out to the wrong law firm. That's okay. They're out. They're not part of this anymore. Offer. Call. Some people will take up on it. Some won't. If they don't, they can stay in here and follow up. But once they get scheduled for the consult, we can move over. Well, now we've got pre-consult call. And we know it doesn't end until this. Well, guess what now? We can email, text, call, mail a package. We could do shock and awe. Right? We can warm them up. This is where we come up with templates, videos, prep them for what's coming, start showcasing the value for what we do. And when does all this end? When we start the meeting. So we've started the meeting and it's going to end when we know what to do and we want them as a client. So I have our sales framework, right? Some data we're going to have to collect, bucket them. Client, yes, no. Right? Again, something comes out, no, that's okay. But now when we go, I understand what we want to do. We know what to do. They're 50 years old, $4 million, house here in Pittsburgh, one in Florida. Kids are in their 30s or 20s or whatever, doing a revocable trust. Family gets along, nothing too wild for us. Okay, I've got an idea what we're doing. Somewhere in the trust world. And they were great people. We want them as a client. Cool. Proposal. So, right? So proposal gets sent. Right? And then it goes. Actually, Yes, maybe, no. So if it's no, long term. If it's yes, paid, signed, and they go out. Maybe we're going to follow up until they go to yes, or until they get a no. Look at that. Quickly built a system. But when we build a system, we do the system first. Then we do SOPs. Then we do templates. Communication, really. Right? From there, then, we want to talk how to track this, how to task it to our team, and what we could automate. And we're going to test, make sure it works. And we're going to roll it out to team. The reason we do this is too many people go start building automations. Never did this, never did this. So we start automating. And guess what? We automate something, 30% through here. What came before it? What goes after it? We don't know. We didn't build that. This is why I'm so big on building systems before we build SOPs. It's not that we don't build SOPs. It's that when we only build SOPs, when we start with SOPs, we're not going to be as efficient. And when we come back up here, this was an SOP first firm, and this was a system first firm. Okay, that's why systems matter. So when we come down here and we start saying, that's what this matters, we have to build it this way. We do the system. Then we start figuring out what are all the SOPs, what are the things in here. And guess what? We may have more boxes. And at some point, the boxes are going to go, so just this is what we do in the box. Once you get to that point, you go, it's not really string things together, just knock these 3 things out, these 20 things out. Where's the SOP? As we're doing SOPs, we start talking, what email do we send to the client, update the referral source, keep other people in the loop. What do we want to tell the client? How do we want to let them know where they're at? Request information. Like, let's not keep reinventing the wheel and writing that up every time. Let's just build templates. What can we make for SMS messages we're going to send? Phone scripts. What's the way that we're going to talk through things? How do we want to showcase things? And there, then, part of this is to help us grow. And so if we're going to grow, we have to start talking about how do we track this? You might be able to use your CRM. You might move to a tool like Monday or Zoho or do something different. We have to start talking about how do we track it, because the goal is not do 5 or 10 of these at a time. We want to start growing and doing a ton of things. So we have to track. We have to be able to task our team, because we don't want to be the ping pong, right? Too many times we get into this like ping pong, like the old Atari game, right? Where it's like pong to you, back to them, back to you, back to them. We want the system to say, guess what? From here to here to here, it just keeps going down through it. And the handoffs happen because the team knows what to do. They don't have to keep coming to you because you've taken it from your brain and committed it down to building a system. And lastly, let's automate. In here, what can happen? Boy, all these follow-ups, texts, emails, that could be automatic. Let's do that. Hey, if the team says, I have all this data and I made selections, I hit the right boxes, filled out the form correctly, can it send the proposal automatically, get the payment link? Payment comes back signed, can it move it out, right? What can we do to automate so that no one has to do it? We've got to test. See, a lot of things die at the test level. Did a pretty good job. Did you really make sure it works? Not just for you, in the real hands of your team, who are real human beings who think sometimes differently from you. We want to turn it into Swiss cheese and then make sure that we fix everything and go from there. We want to make sure that it works. And then lastly, implementation. What's the point of doing all of this to then die? No, We got to roll it out to the team and make sure that they understand how to use it. They understand the system, the SOPs, the top-down approach. So intake's a great one because we do a lot of it. Speeds us up, makes us more efficient and effective. I told some folks at Vertex League Live, the biggest thing we could do is our moneymaker. Our number one profit center. And for me, and us at Zimmer Law Firm, and most of the people that I'm around, not every single person, but most of the ones I'm around, that's estate planning. Go build your estate planning system. Go build all of that out. So you can see what we did here, and we did this really, really, really fast. What if we spent a day on the system? What if we spent a day on SOPs, templates? What if we then said day of office hours to just get extra help? If we then did a day of tasking, tracking, and automation? What if we did a day of office hours? What if we did a day of test and rollout? And then what if we did a day for final office hours? What if we did all of that for estate planning? That's what I'm here to help you guys with. You go, I've done all of this. Mine's ironclad. It's phenomenal. And my RPE, is up here, over 300. I don't know this is for you, right? This is not for everybody. I think you're beyond it. If you're here in the 2 to 300 range, it's going to tighten you up, help you get to the next level. If you're 1 to 200, you need a lot of help, right? Being here in the 1 to 200 range is not ideal. And if you're down here, you should be lining up to figure this out. Because as we increase RPE, your team's able to do more, even more bandwidth, less stress, better metric. So that's what I'm talking about with all of this, right? Because people are going, what are we doing? What's this workshop going to be? So what's the workshop that we're doing? We're going to build all of this out together. We're going to help you, right? This is not to just make a clone of what Zimmer Law Firm does. This is to take what you do to work through your questions, to ask you the questions so you can build through this in a framework that I have done probate, estate planning, intake, hiring, onboarding, payroll, invoicing, right? We've used this all over the place. Less than my past career where modeled reactors and built simulators for aircraft carriers, right? And I mean, I've got some, this is one of my challenge coins from the Gerald R. Ford, right? Captain of the ship gave it to me, right? Like that's what I did. Challenge coins are a big deal in that world. The changes I did at nuclear power plants all over the U.S. to change their design bases. I was one of the few people allowed at, say, BC Summer, for example, down south, to make changes to what was approved by the design basis. And even back then, the Northrop days, what we were doing in the satellite community and space-based radar. This works on really complex. It works for estate planning. It works in your law firm. Question is, do you want help? Do you want a guide to walk you through this? Do you want someone to help push you through it and see it to the end, or do you want to do it yourself? I'm all for doing things ourselves. You go, it's way too much money. I don't want to do it. That's fine. But the big one is that I want to make sure that people have an ability to do it. And so that's why we're doing this. This is what helped us get from 350,000 in revenue to basically the $1 million mark. And then we keep doing this. We keep iterating, we keep making it better. As our dynamic changes what we do for folks, we go through this again. And so that's what we're doing. And then, yes, we have the really cool bonus of if you're in Vertex League Mastermind, we're giving you the ZLF EP system 70-page document that outlines all that stuff, right? It's the system, the SOPs, the templates, how it tasks, how it uses the tools, all that stuff. Again, I see that as a great jump start or a way to see what works and be able to take it and say, I like this part, this part, this part, but we don't do this. It's awesome. I want to be able to give that to people as a free bonus to anybody who signs up for this and that's here. Because again, those are the folks that are really leveling up their law firms. Really want you to consider doing this. Again, it's all about increasing your RPE. So hope that was helpful. Hope that showed you guys what to do. I trust that you learned a lot today with this. And remember, for always and all time, a black box framework. Awesome. You guys have a good one.